debate features candidates for the Whatcom County Executive. There are 2 candidates on the ballot for this race, and I'd like to introduce Tony Larson, Satpal Sidhu. This is an office description. The executive provides for an accountable and responsive county government by ensuring efficient, effective, and economical administration in accordance with the county charter, the Washington State Constitution, and other applicable federal, state, and local laws, as well as county policy. Duties include supervising all administrative offices and executive departments and appointing members to boards and commissions. Whatcom County Executive serves a 4-year term, and their annual salary is $185,985. Candidates will have up to 2 minutes each for an opening statement. They will have 1 minute to respond to each question and will make a 1-minute closing statement. Each candidate has a challenge card. Can you wave your challenge cards? Okay. And they may use this card to challenge or rebut their opponent's response. The challenging candidate will have 45 seconds to state the challenge, and his opponent will have 45 seconds to respond to the challenge. Each candidate may use their challenge card just 1 time. Timers, Carol Camo and Michelle Kopcha, sitting right here, will be tracking the time. They'll flash a yellow sign when 15 seconds remain, and a red sign to signal that time is up. And if a candidate continues, a bell will be rung to signal stop talking, and they don't play around. So we ask that the candidates be respectful of the time allotted due to the limited amount of time that we have and our desire to include as many questions as possible. An important goal of the league is civil discussion. To that end, we also ask that those in the audience be respectful and refrain from comments, as well as hold their applause until the conclusion of the debate. Some questions were prepared by our league question committee, and we encourage members of the audience to provide written questions, which should be addressed to all candidates. Ushers are available in the back to pick up your questions and bring them to the screeners, who are sitting right over here. So just wave your hand if you have a question. Our screeners are Heather McKay-Brown and Julie. And they'll be screening for legibility and clarity and to avoid duplication. Each candidate will be asked to respond to the same question during the debate portion. For this debate, candidates rolled a dice, and the high roller had the choice of going first with their opening statement or having the last closing statement. So candidate Larson will go first, and after we start, I will alternate between the candidates. So the rules are covered. Let's get started. Timers, are you ready? Okay, good. Okay, so candidate Larson, you have the first chance to present your opening statement.
Well, thank you. Thank you to all of those from the League of Women Voters for putting this on, everybody that's come out this afternoon on this beautiful Whatcom County afternoon, and all of those that may be needing some sleep therapy and are watching this on Channel 10 in the evening sometime. My name is Tony Larson. I am running for Whatcom County Executive. I was born in Bellingham 50 plus years ago, and went to school here. I went to college here, graduated from Western Washington University with a degree in economics and finance. Started my first business in college and have had multiple businesses since then. I'm the president of the Whatcom Business Alliance, president and founder of the Whatcom Business Alliance currently, and publisher of Business Pulse magazine. And I think, you know, we've had a number of different forums and in debate formats and a lot of community events where we've got an opportunity to meet with a lot of people in the community. And I think one thing that's on everybody's mind is we've seen really extraordinary changes take place in Whatcom County, obviously over the last 50 plus years that I've been here, but also really dramatically over the last 5+ years. Population has increased about 8.5% over the last 5 years, and we've seen, you know, everybody that is here currently. You see that in the maybe it takes a little bit more time to get to work. You know, we've seen some challenges associated with that, and that is, you know, sort of stagnant wages or slow growth of wages and housing prices that are spiraling up, and young people, really the idea of even buying a home now is becoming out of reach for many people. You know, the wages are not keeping up with the pace of inflation, especially on housing. And a number of other challenges associated with that. You know, the homeless issue. We've got some substance addiction issues, mental health issues. You know, the growth is impacting our environment and a bunch of other things. So hopefully we'll have a great opportunity to talk about all those issues later today.
Thank you. Candidate Sidhu.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Thanks to the League of Women Voters for organizing this, and all of you have come out here, and the ones who are watching at home. My name is Satpal Sidhu, and yes, I want to be your next county executive. Thanks so much for your vote of confidence in the primary. And first and foremost, I have a passion to serve my community, and I bring a unique set of experiences and qualifications to tackle the issues facing our county. This election is about the investment you are going to make in our collective good and our collective future. We all know that we are better than our current politics. We have more in common than what divides us, and we must not be powerless to solve our common issues just because we cannot have a civil and meaningful dialogue. I think our land, our air, our water, our jobs, our environment, these are not partisan issues. These are our common issues, and we all together can solve that. The other thing I want to share with you is that consensus does not mean that we have to agree on everything. What it really means is when we work together, we find some solutions which we can all live with. And if we want to preserve the quality of life we have, then we must have the courage to discuss, disagree, but still have mutual respect. I believe that with the vision and determination and hard work, we can transform our county for a better future for our kids and our grandkids. And I'm ready to do the hard work.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna ask you some general questions to kind of get the ball rolling, and we'll start with candidate Sidhu on this one. If you are elected, what work experience do you think will influence and inform your work for the county if you are the successful candidate?
Okay, several. The first thing is I have spent 5 years on the county council, and I have learned a lot. Learned a lot that how the policy gets made and then how the county executive implements that policy. At the same time, I have learned that county executive is an elected position, and county executive can be a proactive county executive and influence the policy when policy is getting made, not afterwards. So the second thing is I'm an engineer. If you look at county budget, outside of the wages, the most money is spent on capital programs, public works, planning, development, and they are all engineering-related works. And I bring with me 30-plus years of professional engineering experience, which will be great for the county.
Larson?
Yeah, I believe that the primary experience that is necessary to be county executive is really executive experience. You know, the county executive is in a very different role than county council members, and I've been on the county council and I've seen it from the legislative side, but the executive really it's a matter of taking the resources we have and making sure that those resources are allocated to the highest priorities for our community. And you know, you're managing multiple people, multiple departments, and it really is about making sure that our budget is strong. You know, we're in a strong economy now. Revenues are as strong as they've been. You know, we expect those to grow. We've had $520 million in new construction projects that's going to increase the rate of property tax revenues coming in. Sales tax is up. So it's a strong economy now. It won't always be, but we need to make sure that we're managing our resources because there's some real challenges in the budget as well that's going to be crowding out some of the essential public services that are really required. And we're going to really need to be able to look at how do we become more efficient? How do we save some money so we can put resources to where they're most needed?
Thank you. Candidate Larson, if elected, what are you most excited about working on?
I've looked at the budget, and there's some problematic challenges in the budget. One of them that I've mentioned before is that wages and benefits are increasing at a faster rate than revenues increasing. Over the last 5 years, 5 years ago, 65% of the total general fund budget was labor and wages, and now it's 69%, and that number continues to grow. And there is discretionary budgetary issues, and there's really ones that are already allocated, they're dedicated. So that discretionary budget is shrinking, and we've got more demands in our community. So I've got several ways that we can save literally millions of dollars. It's just efficiencies, things that have already been used in the private sector. We can bring best practices and really look at things in a little different way so that we can really create resources that we're going to need to solve some of the challenges that we're seeing in our community.
Thank you. Candidate Sidhu?
You know, what really excites me is dividing this gap of people not able to work together. I think this is an underlying fabric, all of our issues. You talk about budget, you talk about water, you talk about jail. The biggest issue we are facing as a community that we must be able to have a civil dialogue and find common solutions. That really excites me. As an executive, I have worked on hundreds of millions of dollars of projects all over the world. Many things, I bring that experience. It excites me that if we are able to work together, we can handle the water issue now. The fish needs water, farmers need water. We all know we have the water, but it is just that us not getting together on the same table and sharing our disappointments as well as our excitements to get it solved. And that is really exciting to me, to get it done.
Thank you. Candidate Sidhu, if you're elected, how would you measure whether you had been successful during your term?
Oh, I think the success is measured by the people, not me. And when people say, yes, you have got it done, that's what gives me satisfaction. And this is my experience at Bellingham Tech. When I came in, I was told that Satpal, deans come, deans go. If you stay in your office and we just do our job, we'll be all fine. But when I left, all the faculty members came. They said, why are you leaving? What do you need? We can go to management and get you more money. Now, that is a measure of success. Then the people you're working with, they want you. They like you. And you see that the job, the people like have gotten the $100,000 jobs, 1,200 kids, local kids, have gotten those jobs. That's a measure of success. And I believe in those kind of success, not just talk. Thank you.
Candidate Larson?
Yeah, I think the only way you can really measure success is when you identify what your outcomes are in advance. You put measurable, accountable metrics together, and you can measure them. I mean, I've got a number of different plans, some big ideas for a number of different areas of Whatcom County. For example, over the next 50 years, there's going to be $100 million spent on keeping the water in Lake Whatcom clean, and I've got a plan for a 3-year pilot project that would actually allow us to measure the results on clean water. And you know, that's really how you measure success, is where do you want it to be, what are you doing, and did you make an impact? I think there should be measurements on virtually everything we do. You know, our budget, you know, are we efficient? You know, are we, you know, the planning department, you know, are we providing service to our community? So I think it really is about a matter of understanding what your outcome is, understand why you want it, and really the county executive job is to do it. It's about the community deciding what the outcome and what the purpose is, and then it's really up to the county executive to execute.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to start with Candidate Larson. There are a number of tribal sovereign nations in Whatcom County. What role, if any, do you think the county has in creating or fostering relationships with the tribes and their members?
Yeah, that's the tribes in Whatcom County are a significant part of, need to be a significant part of all dialogue, particularly as it relates to economic development and as it relates to our water issues. And that's one of those issues where if we don't come together, especially on water, there's going to be some challenges for our farmers. There's challenges already in the fishing industry. We've heard about the orca population dwindling, and that's because of the lack of the salmon runs. There's a group called I've got a project I'm working on. It's called More Fish, Healthier Farms, and it's really connecting the fishing industry with farmers. And the Washington Farm Bureau has supported me. The San Juan Sea Life group has supported me because we're putting those ideas together and figuring out. And you have to bring the tribes in as well. And it's going to take all of the communities, the county, the tribes. We all have to come together and really, really discuss those issues, take the politics out, and solve some of those things.
Thank you. Candidate Sidhu?
I think that the Treaty of 1855 forms our basis of our relationship with the local tribes, and we must honor that. I think they have shown that they will be equal partners. They have worked with farmers on several issues and have joint projects. At the same time, they have protected this land, this environment, everything for thousands of years. We should learn from them rather than shun them. I think there are ways to bring back the salmon. They are one of the largest employers in our county. There is a lot of wisdom we have ignored for long enough that we should actually partner with them. Yes, we are equal partners. It doesn't mean that we just agree on everything they say or they should agree on anything what we say. But if we sit on the table, talk reasonable, I think that we will do better. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to switch gears. And we're going to start with candidate Sidhu. In your view, what is the role of government in ensuring affordable broadband access for all of our citizens in Whatcom County?
Oh, I feel very strongly. The broadband is not only entertainment, which was when it came, the TV and the video games and other things. I think this has become the very fundamental, like you need water, you need air, I think you need internet. Because the whole life depends on that. Look at the education. It has become haves and have-nots. Our rural areas, not only in Whatcom County, in our nation, the areas which do not have access to digital technology, they will be left behind. And we should not do that. Like we bring roads to people, bridges to people. This is another road and a bridge to our rural communities. I strongly support the initiative taken by Port of Bellingham. I think county has put $400,000 in it. And I support this project to bring the broadband to our rural residents and make them equal.
Thank you. Candidate Larson?
Yeah, technology, really, it's an extraordinarily large part of our economic development strategy. It should be a very important part of even public works. As Mr. Sidhu has said, it really needs to be part of our infrastructure. We need to think about it in the same way we think about roads, bridges, and the rest of our infrastructure in terms of investment. And outside of just the infrastructure investment component of it, we've got a bustling technology industry in Whatcom County already, from emergency reporting and Faith Life, two major technology companies that are here, and others. And there's a real opportunity to create, and technology business, the wages are higher, the jobs are, it's a clean industry. There's a real opportunity, I think, there to attract some technology businesses to our area, but we have to be investing in infrastructure in order to do that.
Thank you. We're going to switch to talking about housing. We're going to start with candidate Larson. Do you think the county executive has a role in creating additional housing units? And if so, what ideas would you propose for consideration? If you do not believe the county has a role, please explain why.
The county executive has probably the largest role, and not from the standpoint of execution, but really leadership. I mean, we're in a housing crisis, and it's not only low-income housing that's in a crisis. It's defined as affordable housing. I don't like that term because the homes are affordable to people who are moving in from California and selling their equity and coming in, but they're not affordable to local young people, even two-family households. The wage required now to buy the medium home in Whatcom County is $63,000. The medium income in Whatcom County, household income is $56,000. So there's a significant gap there. So the county does have a responsibility on the low income side. And currently I think there's about $5 million that's being spent on that from the county. There needs to be collaboration with the city of Bellingham. Bellingham spends a lot of money on low income housing as well. But ultimately what we need to do is increase housing supply. There's a major gap there. Hard to really answer in a minute because it is a very significant problem and one that's going to need to be addressed and will really need leadership.
Thank you.
Yes. I think that county executive has very important role. The county executive does not make the policy, but the county executive can work with the council to adjust our policies. If we look at the current policies we have made, they were made in 1970s, and they were probably proper policies looking at that perspective from that time, but they don't work today. We must revisit those policies of 5-acre zoning, as well as the density levels, as well as infill, as well as mixed zoning. We had predominantly single-family homes, and they were prohibited to make any other type of housing. That's a policy we can change. The county executive can be very influential, and county executive is an elected person, same like council. And that excites me, that a proactive county executive who can actually work with council before the policy is made.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, another switch.
Oh, it's a challenge.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and it's not as much of a challenge as it just deserves more time and attention.
Okay, sure.
And I would just say this, and that is that the housing problem, it is a significant. We're in the crisis mode. That's really where we are, and that's the role of the county executive, is to stand up and first and foremost say that we are the occupancy rate in Whatcom County is below 1%. It's at about 0.7%. In order to stabilize housing prices, we need to get supply. We need to get it from 4 to 6%. It's going to require 3,500 to 4,000 units per year online over the next 4 years alone. In order to do that, there is a Business and Commerce Committee made up of a bunch of local CEOs that provided a plan for that. We can't just nip around the edges. They provided it to the county council, and the county council has just essentially discarded it. And we're going to have to pay attention to that, and we're going to have to sort of step up and ask ourselves as a community, do we really want to solve this problem? And if we do, we can.
Thank you. Mr. Sidhu.
I think I was the person who actually spearheaded formation of Business and Commerce Advisory Committee, and they just 2 months ago, they came up with the recommendations. They have not been discarded. Again, fear is not the answer to our solutions. The solution is they have come up with the idea, and they have a right idea, that we cannot expand our businesses because we don't have worker housing. But calling it that's discarded is not true picture. I think what it is that we need to work on that. And now it's election season for the council and I think in the new year, whosoever is the county executive and the new council, this will be one of the most important topic taken up. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Sidhu, you're going to start with this one.
Yes.
It's generally agreed that available mental health services do not meet the need, even for those able to afford private care. As the supervisor of the county's health department, what action, if any, do you think the county should take to increase the availability of such services in the community?
Yes. The answer is yes. The county should take steps to increase. But it doesn't mean the county has to spend public money to do that. I think we should seek a public-private partnership. But the way it is, the people with mental health or people with addictions don't belong in jail. We should not fill up our jail with that. I think what we need to do, we are building that 32-bed, the new facility. increasing by 16 beds for the triage center, but it's a short-term solution. We need to have a next step, a long-term solution. I don't think county has that much money, not county, I think taxpayers don't have that much money to contribute to that. But if we can find a private partner, we very much need to have an expanded service where we can take care of people for 2-3 months or even a year so that they can come back to the society as a productive citizen.
Thank you. Candidate Larson?
Yeah, the county just spent just over $10 million on the new triage center, or actually added 16 beds to the existing 16. I believe the grand opening for that is going to be this next week, and that is just simply not enough. You know, really, that whole topic really circles around this challenge that we're seeing, and that is there's an increasing homelessness problem, and while everyone that's in that situation has a different story why they're there's the common denominator really is connection. You know, when they lose connection with loved ones, when they lose connection with a support system, you know, family and loved ones and support system. So what we really need to be able to do is we need to be able to connect them first and foremost, and then assess what the problem is, whether it's mental health, substance addiction, economics, whatever, and then we need to essentially direct them to the services that are required, and that's going to require much more facility. There are some private sector interest folks that really want to get involved in investing and solving this problem. If we can put them together with the county, with the city, I think this is something that we can solve, but a solution is not tent cities and allowing people to beg on the streets. That's just not compassionate.
Thank you. Candidate Larson, the 2018 Whatcom County Community Health Assessment concluded that race impacts access to health services. What actions would you take to ensure equity in health services in our county?
Yeah, I've looked through the community assessment, and I've talked to the human health manager. I think one of the biggest challenges is I think they're on the Health and Human Services. They're on the right track. They're identifying the challenges. They're identifying where the resources need to be spent. One of the biggest challenges, in fact, that the county is going to face is we're going to be losing 2 key people out of that department. That's the director, Regina, and Ann Deacon is going to be retiring this next year. And I've talked to both them, and there doesn't seem to be the leadership to sort of really take over that department internally. At least that's their perspective. And so we're going to have to do a search and really make sure that we don't lose momentum there, because that is one of the challenges that we're really facing, that we're seeing as a result of really the growth, increase in housing prices, you know, the substance addiction issues that we're seeing, the mental health, all of that. It's never been more vital to invest in it now. And so we're going to really have to keep that. We're going to have to develop some leadership, make sure we keep the momentum based on what the good work that the folks that are there now have done.
Thank you. Mr. Candidate Sidhu?
Yes. I think our healthcare system is broken. It's so expensive that only certain percentage of our population can afford that. So this necessitates even a stronger action for the immigrant communities as well as other ethnic communities, immigrants, that who, because of certain barriers, several barriers, are not able to access those services. And the first thing is affordability. They can't afford it, so they don't say anything, and that exasperates the situation even more. I think that, and I been part of a minority community. I know these issues firsthand, and we as a community have able to provide some of that services. And I think that the race does play, but race is not the only thing. Its biggest thing is the affordability and low-income people. We approved $100,000 last year for a visiting nurse program for the prenatal and small babies, so that they can be healthy through their formative years.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to switch a little bit and talk about the environment. And Candidate Sidhu, this is first for you. What do you think Whatcom County should do to mitigate the impacts of climate change on our community and our infrastructure?
Okay. The first thing is we should admit that climate change is real. It's not a hoax. And second thing is, what are the steps we can take as a microcosm of the bigger? The environment is not something which is county bound or with boundaries. It is a bigger issue. But there are certain things that we can do, like what I proposed, three-step program. One is that we should do a county audit of all its operations and see what we can do in a short term, medium term, and long term to mitigate the impact. The second thing is that we should plant 1 million trees. I think 6 trees are equal to mitigate 1 car. If we can do that in 5 years, we can mitigate at least 30,000 cars. These are the things which are in our grasp, which we can do. They're not expensive, but we have to admit and see that we can make a difference.
Thank you. Candidate Larson.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I grapple with because it's a global problem. So what can you do as county executive? And I think there's a few things. First and foremost, the clean electricity bill passed at the state level in May of this year, and it put some very strict requirements on our utilities, on PSC. They're going to be required by 2030 to completely eliminate coal as part of their portfolio. By 2045, the objective and the requirement is complete 100% renewable. So doing it at that level, at the utility level, I think really makes an impact and will make an impact. What we can do locally, there's a number of things. And I hope we can get back into this because I can't do it in a minute, but there's a number of things we can do. But some of the things that we shouldn't do is right now Bellingham is considering a mandatory transition from gas to electric for every home that's sold in Bellingham. That would cost $20,000 to $30,000 per home for every home on the sale. It just doesn't make sense. We can't get measurable returns on that, and it will make a negative impact.
Thank you. And we have a challenge.
Yes, it's not a challenge. I just wanted to add a couple of things to that we did talk about the other day too, that $20,000, the $20,000 added to the house, but at the same time, you're not paying your electricity bill. Like if you take $20,000 over 30 years, the payment is $100, $102. But the savings you will have will offset that. So this is really not an increase in the housing. Like this is again another fear thing that this is going to devastate housing industry. What if the interest rate goes high? That'll cost more than $20,000 a house. We have no recourse on that. So I think that these are steps, and they may not come on like tomorrow we're going to change everything. Over time, we can implement that. These are the right solutions. Where would we stop? Where would we start then? Sorry.
Candidate Larson.
It wouldn't devastate the housing industry. It's going to devastate young people that are trying to buy a home, or somebody that wants to rent a home, because it's going to put the rental prices. It's going to put pressure on the rental prices even more than there is now. It's going to add $20,000 to $30,000 on the price of every home up front. That's how that's going to have to be paid for. It's just, there's better ways to do it. I mean, we can invest in infrastructure to incentivize electric cars, for example. We could have electric facilities for cars and try to incentivize that. We could support farming, biodigesters. There's a number of other things that we can do before putting hard costs on the price of home, especially as we're talking about the housing prices already being in crisis. It just doesn't make sense.
Thank you. Okay, Candidate Larson, this is for you first. Water supply, rights, and quality will continue to be county-wide concerns. What actions would you recommend county government take to ensure a safe, reliable, and adequate water supply for all uses in Whatcom County, especially during the summer months when demand is at its peak?
Yes, that's an issue that's vital. And I mentioned earlier that I have a plan for more fish and healthier farms, and it really is. We do not have a water quantity issue. We have a distribution issue, and it's a timing. And what it does require, and we actually talked about it earlier, we have to get together with all the players. We need to bring everybody in the room and talk about how we're going to address this, especially the tribes. That partnership with the tribes is absolutely vital. The doors have already been opened between the farmers and the tribes, and there's some habitat issues associated with that. There's a group, as I mentioned. It's a San Juan Sea Life area group, and they have a hatchery plan that would create a hatchery, state-of-the-art, world-class hatchery similar to Alaska that they want to bring here. We could work on habitat, we can work on in-stream flows, get together with the tribes, and the problem can be solved. It's really political issue that's gotten in the way. It's not that it can't be solved, it's just the politics of it.
Thank you. Candidate Sidhu?
Yes. We do have a water quantity problem in the 4 months because, our ocean and our rivers are only 20-mile long. The day it rains, within 4 hours, the water ends up in the ocean. So we don't have no water storage. We don't have 70-mile-long rivers that you can do something with it. But at the same time, I think that there has been a very meaningful dialogue between the farmers and the tribes. I think fish needs water as well as farmers need water. And this is solvable for 4 months. The proposal is if you divert the part of the water from the river to the northeast, and feed these creeks, that can relieve the problem of low in-stream flows. At the same time, water quality is very important, and the hatchery question, I think it needs a little more discussion than this. I am in favor of that, and sorry, I'll stop here.
Okay, thank you. Candidate Sidhu. The Cherry Point Industrial Zone was established 50 years ago to take advantage of its deep water port. As our world, national, and local economies evolve, what are your goals for using this area?
I think Cherry Point has been, for last 50, 70 years, proposed as a area kept for heavy industrial, and the refineries have done a good job, and they have highest paying wages, but we must transition from that. At the same time, the Salish Sea responsibility and treaty rights is the tribal rights, and we must protect that, and they must have a voice in whatever decisions we make about new pier. At least for now, we cannot have a new pier. Now, as far as developing an industrial park at Cherry Point, I'm all for it. We can bring a lot of manufacturing, value-added industries in that area and create jobs. I'm all for it. I'm all for that. The proposed biodiesel plant, actually, it will try to initiate the transition, and we should do that.
Thank you. Candidate Larson.
Well, the idea that you say that you're for the new biodiesel plant, and for folks that aren't aware of this, energy transition is really the answer, is that we are not in a position to stop fossil fuels, period, in Whatcom County. It's not legal. We simply don't have the ability to do that. What we need to do is really incentivize this energy transition, and it is happening, and they want to do it, and the refineries out there are going to be a major player in it, but it's not going to happen if we're putting if we're adding a regulatory regime on top of the very tightly regulated environment now. That plant won't be built under the proposed amendments in the comp plan. That's why the industries are fighting it so strongly, is they understand that that's going to really not only limit their opportunity, but there's a number of other industries out there. It's not just the refineries. It's throwing the baby out with the bathwater. There's so much opportunity at Cherry Point in terms of a world-class industrial complex out there, and clean energy, et cetera. But if we throw the baby out with the bathwater, we're going to be in big trouble.
Thank you. Candidate Larson, what initiatives would you like to see the county take to improve racial and gender equity for those serving in county government?
To improve it, you know, I don't know what I would do. I haven't had those conversations. You know, there was a conversation at the City Club meeting a couple days ago where we had the forum where the issue came up generally, and what I said is that, in fact, they sent out a question in advance to get us thinking about it, and it had to do with Justin Trudeau, I believe, and the blackface thing that took place, and was asking whether he was racist, and et cetera. And I feel like, you know, we need to, you know, that the racist mentality really occupies a very deep, dark place in somebody's heart, and it's really sad. And you know, as a county executive, I don't know what policies would be enacted. You know, I know that there has been challenge associated with white supremacists in Whatcom County. I talked to Sheriff Elfo and wanted to see if you know, what they're doing. The gang leader from that group was arrested back in 2013. He said it's not on the rise, but it needs to be a community conversation.
Thank you. Candidate Sidhu.
I think that racial or racism is not only about white supremacists. Look, it took us 20 years discussion on LGBTQ. and we finally came to an agreement on that. And I think we can do these things faster. This is not the only about the racist. You know, you heard about that somebody wrote an N-word on my sign the other day, and the FBI is investigating. I got elected in this county. This county is not racist. People are not racist, but there's element of racist. And if we just say we should wear, the first thing we should do, we should strongly, strongly condemn this. And this has, I have not seen that condemnation. Every time, if our total as a community, 99.9% people agree with that. If that 99.9 people say that it's not acceptable, it will go away.
Thank you. And this is your last question before the closing statements. And we're going to start with candidate Sidhu. Whatcom County residents have twice rejected a jail tax to construct a new jail. What do you believe is the best approach to addressing issues with the current jail?
Yes. The best approach to do that is the first proposals which failed, they only addressed the brick and mortar issue. They just said we need $150 million to build a jail. There was no element which we tried to put it in of taking care of long-term. We just talked about long-term mental people with mental health care issues, people with addictions. They don't belong in jail. People who are poor, they don't belong in jail. And I think the new proposal being worked out by IPRTC, that Incarceration Prevention Task Force, and Barry Buchanan and Dan Hamill, and Sheriff has signed up on that he agrees with that. I think that's the best way to approach it, that we should take care of all the other things first, alternates to incarceration, and then we need to replace the current jail building. That's all we need to do.
Thank you. Candidate Larson?
Yeah, I've spent time in the jail, touring and
Good clarification.
Once they took off the handcuffs, I looked around. No. And I was in the jails for years, involved in Bible study to some of the inmates, and it is an inhumane place. It's inhumane for the people that are there. It's a terrible place to work. It's extraordinarily inefficient. It's been a money pit. I mean, they spent $4.1 million on some new doors. And it is a challenge. My position on, obviously, if it was an easy issue, it's a political issue. You know, we can't agree on what we need. I've got lots of ideas, but my thinking from the standpoint of county executive is that I'm not going to get into the political fray on what it needs to be. I need the community to come together and decide what it needs to be, and then as a county executive, I will make it happen. You know, construction costs over the last 5 years have increased by 26%, and but we're bonded. We've got some bank capacity, about $5 million in bank capacity, so we've got the ability to do it, and it's going to take leadership to get it done.
Thank you. And now for the closing statements. Candidate Larson, you go first.
Yes, well, first and foremost, I'd just like to thank everybody for coming out today. You know, I can't tell you how tickled I am with this idea of being able to talk about ideas. You know, we are in a politically charged environment. This job is not about politics. It really is about managing and figuring out where we're going to take this community. We've got some real challenges out there, and it's going to take leadership, and I'm prepared to provide that. It's going to take fiscal discipline. It's going to take, there's some challenges, even though the economy is strong now, there's some challenges in our budget that if we don't address it, you know, it's going to come back and limit our ability to solve some of these problems, especially if we have an economic downturn. So I've got a lot of ideas. We didn't talk about Lake Whatcom. There's a number of other ideas I have that I'd like to share, and hopefully over time, between now and the election, we can share some of those things. Thank you very much for coming.
Candidate Sidhu.
Yes. I think the choice in this race is very clear. I have the right experience and visionary leadership and a proven track record which is needed to tackle the challenges in front of the county in next future. I was born in India. I have lived in 3 different countries. I speak 4 different languages, and I have worked in many countries. I'm a professional engineer. I'm a Fulbright scholar, and I was Dean of Engineering, and I worked as a senior business executive in many large companies. And I've served on numerous nonprofit boards in our community. People say that I'm the voice of reason and thoughtfulness on the county council. And that's why I'm supported by hundreds of small businesses, by unions, by farmers, by tribal leaders, minority communities, environmental groups, everybody. And I think that, all right.
We have to end that in our own
Yes,
imaginations.
thank you.
I want to thank you both for coming, for running for office and for joining us. Thank you.